Bom, é um imenso prazer tê-los aqui, principalmente o Dr. Marcos Girnal, da Federação Alemã do Alimento. Esse é um sonho antigo. O ministro Paulnelli visitou a então BLL, que depois se transformou na Federação, e voltou de lá impressionado com o sucesso da articulação política que eles imprimiram na concertação dos interesses do Estado, das empresas privadas, dos produtores, da ciência e dos consumidores. Bom, por isso, fizemos essa parceria com o CNPq, cujo presidente, Evaldo Vilela, é também o nosso coordenador científico, que eu peço que inicie esse papo com o Dr. Marcos agora, nesse momento. Por favor, Evaldo.
Bom, inicialmente, então, agradecer essa parceria do CNPq com o Fórum do Futuro, que realmente, ter vocês aqui acompanhando, eu espero que a gente possa também, depois, com esse vídeo, influenciar mais pessoas, porque o tema é extremamente importante, né? A questão do alimento, a questão da lei, as leis que regulam toda a cadeia do alimento. E esse exemplo, né, que traz a Alemanha, eles demoraram 10 anos para construir essa federação, que é privada, tá? E que nós temos hoje o prazer de ter aqui o Dr. Marcos Girnal. E ele é muito interessante que a gente está conseguindo isso via virtual, né? É mais complicado, porque a gente não está pessoalmente, mas é muito mais fácil, né? Ele não precisou se deslocar, a gente está tendo acesso, mas a gente pensa em trazê-lo aqui algum dia desse aí para frente, para fazer uma interação mais positiva, porque é extremamente interessante. Então, eu diria então que
lembrar a ajuda da embaixada da Alemanha.
Nós temos que lembrar aqui a ajuda da embaixada alemã no Brasil, aqui vizinha do CNPq, foi extremamente solícita, nos ajudou muito a fazer os contatos com a Federação e com o Dr. Marcos Girnal. Bom, então, ele já disse um pouco da vida dele. Ele fez estudos acadêmicos, né, graduação na Universidade de Bonn, na Alemanha. Ele trabalhou cerca de 28 anos em diversos campos da indústria de alimentos, inclusive de negócios, né, de venda de alimentos, focando especialmente a questões legais, né, e as políticas para os consumidores. Então, esse aspecto é muito interessante, porque é uma instituição privada que tem um foco no atendimento ao consumidor. E, para isso, ela buscou se fortalecer em conhecimento, em ciência. Então, ela faz essa ligação entre ciência e consumidor, tá? De uma maneira que possa ter uma cadeia de produção de alimentos absolutamente inédita no mundo, né? E que faz uma entrega permanente de qualidade, de segurança do alimento, né? Em todos os seus aspectos, e influencia o mundo. Nós estamos aqui influenciados por eles, e tenho certeza que muitos outros países, né, pelo que a gente sabe, estão olhando o que eles fazem, copiando o que eles fazem. Lembrando que eles ocupam um quarteirão em Berlim, uma estrutura grande, com laboratórios, né, e que é mantida pelas empresas de produção, comercialização de alimentos na Alemanha e na Europa, né, na União Europeia. Então, vamos começar, vamos passar a ele. Tem aí uma tradução em inglês e português, não é isso, Fernando?
Eu vou fazer uma apresentação breve do que é o Instituto Fórum do Futuro, que nós todos representamos. Mas antes, eu queria saudar a presença do ministro Paulo Haddad, que foi ministro do Planejamento e ministro da Fazenda, mas é seguramente um dos pensadores mais importantes do Brasil em toda a questão da cadeia do alimento. A gente prefere olhar isso não só pela agricultura, mas pela bioeconomia como um todo. Bom, o Instituto, Dr. Marcos, nasceu com a ideia do ministro Paulinelli de ter uma reflexão independente para apoiar o terceiro salto da bioeconomia brasileira. O primeiro grande salto, como a gente sabe, foi o Norman Borlaug, no final dos anos 50, quando ele multiplicou a produtividade do trigo e do milho por 5. O segundo, quando o ministro Paulinelli coordenou a construção da agricultura tropical sustentável. Naquela época, em 1974, o Brasil importava 30% dos alimentos que necessitava. Nós tínhamos um avanço sobre a Amazônia extremamente consistente, e tudo isso foi dirigido, a partir daí, de uma base de ciência, tecnologia e inovação, no sentido de explorar o cerrado. E hoje o Brasil alimenta quase 1 bilhão de pessoas no mundo. O terceiro salto é agora. E eu tenho certeza que vocês já estão operando nesse patamar, que é não só assegurar a entrega de alimentos, que nós vamos precisar muito mais até 2050, a produção de energia conectada com esse desafio também, e de água, mas fazer isso de forma sustentável, com impacto saudável sobre o organismo das pessoas e, sobretudo, combatendo o aquecimento global. No Brasil, a gente tem talvez a referência global da ciência tropical sustentável. São inúmeras universidades que trabalham na ponta, são 24 mil doutores formados por ano. Agora, precisamos aprender a associar o conhecimento que nós produzimos e desenvolvemos e aterrizá-lo na sociedade. A gente calcula que mais de 50% das tecnologias sustentáveis produzidas pela Academia Brasileira não chegaram à sociedade. Bom, e nós sabemos que vocês fizeram, o ministro Alisson teve aí em 2019 e voltou simplesmente impressionado com o que viu. Muito deve ter sido da sua lavra pessoal, porque, como sua trajetória no campo político e legal, é exatamente isso que a gente precisa entender, como é que vocês conseguiram pacificar o interesse dos produtores, da indústria, do Estado, da ciência e na ponta dos consumidores. É isso que a gente gostaria de ouvir do senhor, mais uma vez agradecendo enormemente a sua disponibilidade. Dr. Marcos.
Could you put on my presentation?
Wesley, você está puxando aí?
Thank you. Just go to the next slide, please.
Pode passar.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the invitation to this workshop today. I'm deeply honored to be with you today. It's afternoon in Berlin, but it's morning in Brazil, so we just close together. And I want to start just introducing my federation and what they are doing. The Food Federation Germany is the leading association in the German food sector. And we are leading in the fields and working in the fields of food law, food safety, nutrition policy, and consumer policy. These are our main parts, and we, as is written here, we share opinions, we coordinate interests within the German food chain. We are a discussion platform within the German food chain, and of course we are putting expert opinions and expert statements in the regulatory process, and we take part in public hearings of the government in Germany and the European Union. And we are a lobbying federation. We are representing the interests of our members towards politics, authorities and associations in Germany and in the European Union. And which is more and more important, we are the voice of the German food sector in public and in media. As you probably know, food and nutrition have become one of the most important topics in the social and public discussion, and therefore healthy and sustainable food is on the agenda of politics and on the agenda of media. And there also the federations in Germany have to react, and that's why we were renamed 2 years ago. First our name was German Federation for Food Law and Food Science, and now we are called Food Federation Germany, just to also make clear that we are also a lobbying federation representing the whole food chain in Germany. And my boss, my general director, is a media and communication expert. This shows also that we don't count on lawyers and scientists, but also media becomes more and more important for us. And the German Food Federation also invests more in consumer communication with several websites. One is called Food Magazine. Unfortunately, most of them are in German, but we are very active in the media and in public. And of course, we put a lot of market information to our members. We are a legal and political advisor and a service provider for our members. We send around about 700 circular letters or newsletters for our members to inform them about changes in food law and food science and political initiatives. So this is a really great a source for information for our members. And we are financed exclusively by membership contributions, so we don't get any state subsidizing, no public money. We are just counting on our members, and so we have to be helpful for our members to keep them on board and to keep them as members to get financed on the private side. Next slide, please. Yeah, this shows where our members come from. Our membership structure is quite extraordinary because we are not a branch federation like this is normally done. You have industry federations, you have retail federations, you have pharma federations. We are a federation which covers the whole food chain. So we have members from, as you see, agriculture, from food trade, from craft, from the butchers and bakers federations are members with the Food Federation. We have members from industry, from retail, from the supplying industry, from the packaging industry, parts of the chemical industry as it concerns, for example, additives, flavors, and enzymes. They are also member of the Food Federation, and private laboratories, law firms, and consultants. And as you probably see, this is sometimes much more difficult to form opinions because sometimes we have, of course, different interests or opinions along the food chain. We have competitive points. And so we have to try to find compromises along the food chain in our statements. But if we are able to form a common statement, it is, of course, a very strong political statement because it covers the whole food chain. This is, of course, a very strong position towards industry. Next slide, please. Yes, it gives you a short insight in our membership. We have about 80 associations as members, the branch associations from the farmer side, from the craft sector, the food industry, and the retailers. As you probably know, the food industry every branch has its own federation: the meat industry, the milk industry, the brewers, the confectionery industry, non-alcoholic beverages, bread industries. They have all their own federations, and they are all members of the German Food Federation. We have about 220 companies from the big players, you know it, like Unilever, Nestle, Kraft, Danone, McDonald's. But we have also the classical German companies. As you probably know, the most of the food industry companies in Germany are small and medium-sized companies. But we have also the big players in the agro side, like BASF and Bayer Crop Science, because of course we are talking about genetic modification or genome editing, which are very controversial topics in Germany and in the European Union. Perhaps we can talk later on about this. And we have the big retailers, the big German retailers, Metro, Edeka, and Rewe. And we have about 150 individual memberships. These are individuals from private laboratories who are, of course, very interested in our 700 newsletters because they want to have information from us, what's going on the legal side. On the scientific side, we have consultants, lawyers, which work in the field of food law, and publishers. They are all covered by the German Food Federation. Next slide, please. Yes, this gives you a little bit impression about the economic data of the German food chain. We have about 700,000 companies all along the food chain, from agriculture to retail and hotels and restaurants. We had about 5.75 million employees. This is about 13% of the total employees in Germany. Turnover about 180 billion euro, 6% of the total turnover in Germany. We have an export with a view to industry about 68 billion euros. We have 270,000 trainees, and of course we coordinate the food supply for about 82 million consumers in Germany every day. And on the right-hand side, you see a little bit split off the numbers in the different parts of the food chain, which is probably interesting to you. I just don't want to count on that yet, not yet. But you see, food chain and the food industry is a quite important pillar in the German economy. So this gives us, of course, a strong voice towards politics. Next slide, please. Yes, we have two subsidiaries. One is in Berlin, where I'm sitting now in our headquarters in Berlin, and the second office is in Brussels. As you know, Brussels is of course important for us because food law and food policy is mainly driven by the law of the European Union. About 80%, I would say, about 80% of the law acts are European, and only 20% stay in Germany. So European law in food law is very important, and therefore we have to have an explicit eye on the European level to be engaged there. One of our power and our expertise is that we are working interdisciplinary, as you see here. The Food Federation Germany has employees from the lawyer side, food chemists, food technologists, nutritionists, and media experts. And we bring all this expertise together. from different profession and the knowledge from different profession. And this is a combination is, of course, very important for a successful work in the field of very complex problems. Food law, food policy is getting more and more complex. And I think it's a good way of covering these problems if we have experts from all professions which can discuss together inside our federation and to bring in their expertise for our members. Next slide, please. We have of course a web presentation. This is revised at the moment to be more attractive in the future. Unfortunately, we have only a small part in English. The main part is, of course, in German, but you find a lot of positions, a lot of insight knowledge on our website. And we have a food magazine with media articles and photos, also in German, which you can find. And this is, I think we have an internal part for our members where our newsletters are put for our members. And this is also more executed to give also journalists, the media, and consumers helping information about labeling on food products. And we are just more and more concentrating also on the consumer side to give them information about the German food chain. Next slide, please. We have also, of course, a continuous dialogue with who are our contact persons and our counterparts, especially, of course, on the political side, the federal government in Germany, the federal chancellery, and the federal ministries. These are of our main counterparts on the administrative side. Germany is the Ministry for Nutrition and Agriculture is our ministry, which we talk most. And as you see, Germany is living in very interesting political times at the moment. We had a general election on the 26th of September. Chancellor Merkel will retire after 16 years, and we will have we get a new government probably formed by 3 political parties. And this is very interesting time at the moment because the coalition negotiations are going on, and we have, I think, 2 options: the traffic light coalition, Social Democrats, Liberals, and the Green Party, or the Jamaica coalition, the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the Green Party. But as you see, the Green Party will get more influence, and the influence will increase, and that will also mean that we will more discuss also on sustainability subjects in the near future. So it will be more ambitious also for the food chain and its federations to talk to politics. We will see what will happen in the next months, but it will be interesting for the next legislature in Germany. But it's also the federal parliament, the federal council, our counterparts for our discussions. The state parliaments, you probably know Germany is split in 16 states, and the food law is executed by the states. So this is also very important for us to talk about to them. And we have 2 federal authorities, the BFR, which is the Risk Assessing Institute in Germany, and the BVL, which is the Authority for Consumer Protection and food safety. So these are the federal authorities, and then we have the food control authorities on the states part to which we are talking. Next slide, please. On the European level, we are also very active, of course, talking to the European Commission. As I said, 80% of the legal acts are covered by the European side, so the European level is very, very important for us. We're talking to the European Parliament, to the European Food Safety Authority, the EFSA, you probably know, and we are very engaged in our European Federation, which is called Food Drink Europe. This is the European Industry Federation. As I said, our branch organization is very explicit, so we don't have a food chain organization on the European side. There we have branch organization. Therefore, we are engaged in the European Industry Federation, Food Drink Europe, and we also talk to the Codex Alimentarius. Next slide, please. Another counterparts are, of course, the political parties, the non-governmental organizations. We are talking to the Consumer Association and the environmental organizations, to the churches, to the trade unions, to other federations and associations, and media and the scientific organization. We have a very close contact also to the scientific organizations. And we have a series called BLL Dialogue, where we talk especially to the Consumer Association, the Association of the Organic Farming and the environmental groups, and there we have a very close contact to talk on the actual political topics. Next slide, please. Yes, these are the topics we are covering. This is, of course, all the topics which are very close to food. As you see, this is a general food law, nutrition policy. We have a big obesity discussion in Germany on the political side. Healthy lifestyle is more important. All the parts of consumer information, labeling, nutrition labeling, allergen labeling, animal welfare labeling. These are subjects we are concentrating on. And of course, crisis management is very important for us. In the Corona pandemic, lots of additional work of advising our companies and to guarantee the security of the supply chain and to prevent supply shortages were very, very, very important. And we were able to show, I think, during the Corona pandemic, that the stability of the German supply chain in the last months of the crisis worked, and I think this was very important. The resilience of the German food chain was proved, and that was very important. You see the other topics, as I said already, GMOs is a topic, genome editing, novel food is a topic, hygiene, food additives, organic is getting more and more important, and of course also packaging material. This is also a topic which we are covering. And now I go over to the food controls. Please, the next slide. Yes, this shows, I think, basically the structure of the system of food controls in Germany and the European Union. So we have the three big pillars. The first level concerns the self-monitoring and the in-house controls of the food companies, which is very, very important, of course, the most important part of the control system, because it's a part of every food business officer in the companies, because, of course, the food business officers are closest to the products. They are familiar with their products and their production chains, and therefore they have the primary responsibility for food safety in Germany and in the European Union. And this is very important. The food business operators in the companies, they have to ensure the safety and the marketability of the produced and marketed food by self-monitoring and in-house control measures. Then we have a second pillar, which is the certification, as the external audits and controls on behalf of the companies. External independent auditors check the food products on behalf of the companies based on private standards. And there we have, for example, the International Food Standard or the BRC, the British Retail Standard. These are the in-house checks. They are checking if the in-house quality management system of the companies are functioning. So this is the second part, which is under the responsibility of the private organizations. These two parts are in the hand of the companies. And then we have a third level. These are the official state controls. The food inspection authorities inspect and monitor the food companies as a control of the control, as we call it, based on a risk-based approach. In Germany, the states, as I said, are responsible for food inspection, and they control on the basis of a risk-based approach and the criteria, how often they will be visiting the companies are, for example, the sensibility of the products, the previous control results, the compliance with food law, and the hygiene status in the premise in the different premises. Therefore, you have official state controls, sometimes every month, sometimes every year, sometimes every 1.5 years. So this depends really on the results of the past and the sensibility of the products. Next slide, please. Then we have a look on the legal obligations of food business operators by the European General Food Law. These are the main blanket scores of food law. The first thing is, of course, the guarantee of food safety. Operators shall not place on the market unsafe food or feed. An unsafe food, this is food which is injurious to health, for example, with contaminated with microbiological, chemical, or physical detraction, or we have unfit products for human consumption. They are then we have mold, decay, spoilage in the product. So this is also part on the safety criteria in the European Union. Then we have the point of responsibility. Operators are responsible for the safety of the food and feed which they are produce, transport, store, and sell. As I said, the primary responsibility stays with the companies, and I think this is also the right decision because they are very close to products and production process. So they have to really guarantee safe products in the German and European market. Then we have traceability. Operators shall be able to rapidly identify any supplier and consignee, so to trace back the products and to have efficient recalls and withdrawal procedures in the markets. And the fourth point is transparency. Operators shall immediately inform the competent authorities if they have reason to believe that their food or feed is not safe. So this is, of course, the very fast reaction in case of emergency. And this is also the next point. Please to the next slide. The next point is emergency. The operators shall immediately withdraw or recall food and feed from the market if they have reason to believe that it is not safe. And prevention, the operators shall identify and regularly review the critical points in their processes and ensure that controls are applied on these points. And the last key obligation is cooperation. Operators shall cooperate with competent authorities in actions taken to reduce the risk. So these are the 7 big obligations laid down in the General Food Law of the European Union. Perhaps we can summarize this like the operators have active care and supervision of the production processes. This is, I think, the very important part. Then they have to take action in emergency cases, so they have to react if they have seen something went wrong. They have to react with information, interference, communication with the authorities and the public. And they, of course, have to start their recall and withdrawal processes in production. Next slide, please. Then we have a look on the in-house control, the food management system of the companies. The food business officers are responsible, as I said, for ensuring that their products are safe for human health and comply with existing food law requirements. These are really two important tasks for the operators, and I think it's very important to have these split and this differentiation between compliance with law on the one hand, the marketability of products, and on the other hand, on the safety of products, because this is very important to conduct recalls in the market. And according to the food law, not every violation of the law leads automatically to a public recall. So you have to have an additional safety assessment first, and if the safety assessment gives you the result that your product is not safe, then of course you have to recall the product from the market. And at the moment, perhaps you know, we have a very extensive discussion in Europe on ethylene oxide in sesame seeds from India and in several additives, and we are discussing with the authorities if also products have to be recalled where an additive is concerned. And the question is at the moment, do also have the final products have to be recalled where the additive is manufactured, although ethylene oxide is not detectable in the final product. And there we are of the opinion, if you don't have any detection in the final product, these products are safe and can stay on the market. The Commission of the European Union is of another opinion, and therefore we are discussing at the moment with the Commission and the Member State this legal questions of ethylene oxide in final products, for example, ice cream on the European market. The food business operators are required to exercise their duty of care by using appropriate measures such as in-house controls, and effective quality management systems are, of course, the basis for preventive consumer protection according to the European General Food Law. And therefore, the food business officers have to have, according to their responsibilities and their duty of care, to control adequately the food safety and the quality requirements in their companies. And the basic measures of a preventive quality management system are a preventive analysis of risks and the handling of processes. So these are the two decisive factors of running a quality management system. And next slide, please. This is, of course, especially focused on the hazard analysis and critical control points concept. The hazard concept you probably all know, with the 7 checks, as I wrote down here again: conduct a hazard analysis, identify critical control points. Where are critical control points? So this is very important to identify, to establish critical limits, to introduce a monitoring system, to implement corrective actions in case of deviations, and set to final points, establish record-keeping procedures, which is of course very, very important, and to produce documentation just to have enough argumentation towards also the authorities. So these are this is the main I think focus concept of the primary quality management systems in the companies. This is a hazard concept, and that's the transmission of the hazard concept in the different companies. Next slide, please. What are the main measures of a functioning quality management system? This is, of course, I wrote down some examples here: specifications, exact specifications of raw materials and ingredients. You have to word what do you want to have as a raw material, as an ingredient, and the properties of the raw material. Then supplier assessment and the supplier selection. So do you work together with your suppliers for several years? Do you know your suppliers? Can you trust your suppliers? This is, of course, part of an assessment of your supplier assessment. Then regular inspection of the incoming goods. You have to take samples, of course, if you get raw materials, ingredients at your premises gate. There you have to check, do you get that what you have ordered in your treaties. Then checks of microbiological, chemical, and physical risks by analyzing samples taken from the production process. Of course, this is of course one major point, and many branches in the German food sector have voluntary branch sampling systems. For example, the fruit juice industry, they have a voluntary pesticide sample system. The tea industry, the tea federation has a voluntary analyzing sample system for pesticides and contaminants. These are additional to the legal provisions according to the European Union and the German regulation. You have to have, of course, a hygiene concept for the production site and the staff, and strict documentation. Documentation is, of course, always relevant if you discuss with the authorities, just to have your documentation on your hand to show what you are doing and what you have done. Cleaning and disinfection and pest control plans are part, of course, of the quality management system. Training of the staff, traceability and crisis management systems are important. The evaluation of customer complaints. And one point I want to mention, which is getting more and more important in my point of view, that is the issue monitoring. The issue monitoring means what happens that you have an early warning system in your company, and you watch what happens in international markets. Are there any contaminations of raw materials or quality problems in supplying countries? Do you find risks appearing because of price increase for certain raw materials and ingredients? Perhaps you know the horse meat scandal some years ago, where the prices of horse meat in Romania was so cheap that people tried to change beef into horse meat, and therefore we had food fraud cases in the European Union, and there you could see that there could rise some problems because of the increasing beef price and the lowering horse meat price. So this is important just to watch this. And are the other special problems with certain origins? So this is part of the issue management. Sorry, yes, now my presentation gets lost.
Por favor. Mais aí.
Yeah, so I can't see the presentation anymore here.
Mais aí.
Please, moment.
Quer dar retorno, Wesley?
Yeah, thank you. So the issue monitoring, you can have an orientation, for example, in the European Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed, where you have warning information. What was found by the European food authorities. You have the IFS dashboard where you can have an overview on quality problems, contaminations, pesticide residues everywhere in the world, what's going on. I think the issue monitoring gets more and more important for the food companies. Next slide, please. And the safety measures are mostly completed then in the last months by 2 other measures to fight food defense and food fraud. Food defense specifies the protection of food products from a planned intentional contamination and adulteration by chemical, biological, physical, or radioactive substances in the context of an act of sabotage or terrorist action. So the bigger companies all have also these defense measures to incorporate it in their food quality system. And on a legal part, you have to include in the European Union since several years food fraud measures in the food quality management system. And the food fraud measures specify the protection against any suspected intentional action by businesses or individuals for the purpose of deceiving purchasers and gaining undue advantage. For example, dilution, substitution, concealment, unapproved enhancement, mislabeling. For example, people offer you organic labeled products which are not organic, which are conventional products intentionally. So this is of course a case of food fraud, where you have to take care, and therefore food fraud measures are also let's say integrated into the food quality management system of the companies, especially authenticity testing for origin and organic, to verify your origin or to verify your organic raw materials. Next slide, please. The functioning, why are efficient quality management systems so important? The functioning of the in-house quality management systems are of course of vital interest for the food industry companies, because violations do not only lead to sanctions by the authorities. There you have of course sanctions like monetary fines, skimming of profits, or special requirements or shutdown of premises. These are the sanctions by the authorities, but you have also, of course, which are very important for the companies, significant economical damages by withdrawals or public recalls. They are often not covered by product assurances. So these are significant economical losses for the food companies. We have liability claims from competitors, from consumers, which are important for the companies. And we have, of course, a decrease of consumer trust in the manufacturers' food products and brands. If you are confronted with problems in the quality management system or public recalls or public withdrawals. And this is, of course, the damages of the company image in public is, of course, often the most harmful and lengthy consequence. And therefore, all companies are, of course, working that they are not covered by bad news, bad image for the food companies in the public image. Next slide. I just want to have a quick look on the problem. Traceability also. Traceability is, of course, also a very important quality management steering instrument. We have a little bit new discussion in Germany on traceability. We have a legal provision which is very broad and that food business operators must be able to identify from whom and to whom the food products have been supplied. So we have a legal provision that you have to trace back one step up and one step down all along the food chain. So every part of the food chain has to observe this legal provision, one step up and one step down. They have to know from whom and to whom the food products have been supplied. There is no legal obligation to establish a link between incoming raw materials, ingredients, and outgoing final products. So there is no legal obligation to have an internal traceability. But of course, these internal traceability is very important. It contributes to more targeted and accurate recalls, and therefore all the big companies, they try to implement internal traceability procedures voluntarily, just to be safe on this side and to be not touched by public recalls in general. Food business operators must have systems in place to allow for this information to be made available to food authorities on request. No dedicated system is prescribed in European law, which is very important for us because we have, of course, a broad variety of size of enterprises. We have the butchers and small, very, very small companies. In the craft side, the butchers and bakers or the market stands, and we have medium-sized industry companies, and of course we have the multinational players, and they have all different possibilities to gain traceability systems, and therefore no dedicated system is prescribed in European law. You can have paper-based or data-based systems. In small business, you can manage, of course, traceability systems by well-organized paper-driven systems. But of course, at a certain point, certain size of the company, you have to change over to a database system. But there you have, from European law, a certain flexibility. But the German food authorities, and we have this discussion during the last months, want to accelerate the measures by demanding regularly electronic or data transmission in an established machine-readable format. So they want to really speed up the traceability line, and we managed to have a transitional period that was given for the smaller companies to change over to electronical, data-driven, machine-readable formats. This will help the smaller companies to push a little bit the technological process over the next year. And the traceability records should be made available to the food authorities without delay, at latest within 24 hours. This is also a very ambitious, claim by the authorities in Germany, and we are discussing with the German authorities if this is really in strict line with the European law. Next slide, please. Then let's move over to the food control system, the food inspector system in Germany. Food inspectors from the authorities, from the federal state, they collect samples in accordance with a sampling plan. They take regular samples in the industry premises or the supermarkets, but they also respond to information on consumers in case of any irregularities are found. Then they take suspect samples in the companies. This is, of course, very important to check if there went something wrong. The food inspectors also carry out controls in the companies and their production premises without prior notice. So the industry does not know when the food inspectors are coming, so that they will get a really daily target from the inspected premises. All areas of business premises, for example, production, storage, refrigeration rooms, and shop floor objects, the different nice work surfaces are inspected, waste areas are inspected, transport vehicles are inspected, and there will be a very keen eye on the documentation of the in-house quality management systems. They are inspected in regular risk-based intervals, and this is, of course, very important to have an objective external eye on the quality management systems of the companies. As I already said, should deficiencies be found, the authorities have a wide number of possible sanction measures to claim. Last point is what I want to mention. We have a big political discussion in Germany on how to present results of controls of the authorities in companies, in a shop display, or on a website to inform consumers to have more transparency on the hygiene status in the premises. I think this is a very, very big discussion in Germany. The results of the controls shall be assessed and rated in a special point-based system. The final point result then will be classified in a traffic light system. Next slide, please. In a traffic light barometer and an arrow. What you see here, there the company result will be classified from green over yellow to red, and you see the arrow there. There is the point result of the controlled company. There will be this ranking by an authority is of course a very, very heavy intervention of a state authority in the competition. And therefore, it is required by constitutional law that the company must have a chance for rehabilitation when deficits are eliminated. So the company must have the right to recover and to get a better result in this ranked system. And this means that in our opinion of the German Federation, of German Food Federation, that a new control audit and a new ranking within 8 weeks must be possible. So, and this is the difficulty for the authorities, because as you probably will know, the authorities have not enough personal and financial resources to guarantee this re-audit within 8 weeks. And this is, of course, a very a legal problem, and we are talking very intensively with the German authorities on this point. And I think this will also a very interesting discussion which is going on with the next government in Germany during the next month. Let me, at the end of the presentation, next slide, please, pick up your questions that you posed to me just before the workshop, and of course we can afterwards discuss some of these points here on the screen. The first question was, how were political and strategic trajectories that led to the current system of regulation, certification and monitoring in Germany? Yeah, the basis were several food crises, especially the BSE crisis. The BSE crisis led to an examination and a realignment of food control system in the European Union to regain consumer trust. And this was really a turning point, I would say, for this restructuration of the control system in the European Union and in Germany. And the system is, as I said, regularly adapted by new learnings. For example, the integration of the food fraud checks into the quality management system. So we're really keeping up and look what's important to integrate in the system, and this will be then revised from year to year. What instrument I used to guarantee a relationship of trust between state, private initiative, and customers and consumers? Yes, I would say a continuous dialogue with the authorities is very, very important, because this is the essential source of trust. So we have a lot of roundtables with authorities, state authorities or federal authorities. We have an exchange on legal interpretations of important EU regulations, so we can check in which points we are on the same line, we are on the same opinion as the authorities. Where we have different opinion, we have to go on with our discussions, and we have a continuous exchange on special problems we meet in the political field. And of course, brand management and increased communication by industry is of course very important. nearly all companies have consumer hotlines, websites, social media channels to be in close contact to their consumers, that they are able to react on concrete concerns or concrete wishes of the consumers. So I think these close contact of the companies with the consumer, with their customers, is one of the major importance. And as I said at the very beginning, more media and consumer communication, also by the federations with the authorities, with public media, is important to explain their arguments, to explain their statements, also to resist against NGO attacks. This is also one major field for the companies and for the industry federations. Next slide, please. Then there was a question, what are the main demands by the consumers? I think there we can just say good quality is still, of course, one major concern by the consumers. In Germany, also goods of good value, which means food shall not be too expensive. We have a very intensive market in Germany. We have a discount level in the supermarkets about 40%. So the consumers are fixed to low prices. Low prices are very important for the consumers. Product information and product labeling is, of course, getting more and more important. And according to public surveys, healthy food and sustainable production are getting more important for the consumers in the last months. Then you had the question, does the system continue to evolve, in what aspects? I think we have a trend to more transparency and to more information. This is explicitly seen in Germany and in the European Union. We have intensive discussion on nutrition labeling, on front of pack labeling. Perhaps you met the discussion on the Nutri-Score, which also a color-coded system to give the consumer more information on nutrition of the product. We will get in short time a new discussion on eco-labeling, on carbon footprint labeling, and on animal welfare labeling. So these are, I think, the topics for the next month and the next year. Sustainability labeling, like eco-labeling, carbon footprint labeling, and animal welfare labeling. This will be on the plate in the German and European discussions. More information, more consumer education is also a very important point. Without governing or influencing the consumer by state action or regulation, but to give him a free choice on the products he wants. And we will get a new discussion in Europe. Can we move over information from the product label to digital ways of consumer information? Because as you also see probably in Brazil, we have a limitation of the product label. We cannot put more and more information on the label. This is overloaded, and the consumer will not understand all this information, the small information on the product label. So I think we have to find in the near future ways, and we have to decide what kind of information should be on the product and what kind of information can be given to the consumer on digital ways. And I think one important question will on the political line be that is a question which way we want to go. Will we use market-driven measures in the food policy in Germany and in the European Union? Will we use information, education, and self-commitment to come along? or will we have more state interventions? Will we have state measures, state interventions in product recipes? For example, a ban of advertising, taxes on sugar, taxes on fat, which is discussed, of course, very intensively in Germany and the European Union. Will we have more prohibitions of certain sources? So I think this is one of the decisive questions also for the next government in Germany. What will be the instruments of politics in the food market? Will it be market-driven measures, as I said and explained before, or will it be state intervention in the food market? Next slide, please. There was also the question, how do you see the future of food market? What is the role of control, transparency, and food monitoring in this process? As I already said, a resilient food system and food safety will also play an important role in the near future. I think this is also, and the corona pandemics showed the importance of food safety and resilient food systems for the robust supply of the consumers. The consumers want to rely on the food industry, and I think this well-working supply of the consumers during the corona pandemics had really improved the image of food industry in Germany. And resilient food systems and food safety, I think, will also be on the top priority of politics, because we have to answer the question, how do we feed the world in future? And therefore, resilient food systems and food safety have to play an important role. As I said, sustainability and animal welfare will become more and more important. These soft product properties are difficult to control in the final product because they concern production process and production properties. This is challenging in the control of the food authorities, but no way sustainability, animal welfare, these are the top topics, the top priorities in Europe in the next month. As you probably know, we have to implement the European Green Deal and the European Farm to Fork strategy in the different companies. We have a very general agenda at the moment, and this will be fixed during the next month and will be more concrete what will happen. This will be very important also for the companies. And in this process, what are the main vulnerabilities of industry and agricultural producers? I think international food chains are very important. Trade is important also for the German food industry. But of course, it brings also problems because of different rules of food law in the different parts of the world. I mentioned the fumigation with ethylene oxide in India. Food is in the focus of public attention, and therefore we will have to relax on photos which are not very comfortable for us from NGOs. You saw these the BSE photos and the BSE crisis, which made the consumers very anxious, and we will find these photos also in the near future on the media parts, and therefore we will have to react. Last slide, please. In the last question, how do you see new market? Will it be different, or will digital food technologies dominate? I think quality, taste, and pleasure will also be always play its role in the field of food and nutrition. They will be important also in the near future. I mentioned the trend to more sustainable food system. That will be a challenge, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises. And our task as the Food Federation Germany will be to accompany these process of moving to more sustainable food systems, and to consider not only ecological aspects and social aspects, but also economic aspects. So I think the small and medium-sized food companies are on the way to more sustainable food systems, but they should manage this without getting lost somewhere. And I think this will be a strong voice of the European food federations with Commission and with the European Parliament, that we will find a legal framework where also the small and medium sized companies may play their role. Innovation and new technologies have to play an important role in this challenge. I mentioned already genome editing, for example, the question of insects, plant proteins, and artificial meat. This will be on the agenda. Digital food technologies will also play an important part. And yes, as a closing remark, I would finish my presentation saying that food and nutrition have become one of the most important topics in the social and public discussion, and therefore this is lost here in on my slide, but therefore this is and will be, I think, a field of special public attention and a field of a lot more discussion in Germany, in Europe, and on the international level. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to present my thoughts to you and to give me the floor in this workshop. And of course, I'm open to try to ask your questions or to discuss with you one of the topics I mentioned. Thank you very much for listening.
Dr. Marcos, amazing. Nós estamos impressionados, esperávamos uma coisa excelente, mas não tão espetacular. Agora, eu tenho várias questões aqui, mas passo primeiro para o Evaldo Vilela, para ele abrir a sessão de perguntas. Evaldo? Bom, enquanto a gente aguarda o Evaldo entrar, eu tenho já algumas perguntas aqui. As primeiras são do Oberdan, que é dirigente do setor de crédito agrícola. Ele coloca duas coisas. Primeiro, como é que vocês, na Federação, veem o papel do Brasil como fornecedor de alimentos? E o segundo, como é que vocês lidaram com as disputas internas dentro da cadeia de alimentos, das empresas, dos produtores, para pacificar esses olhares? Eu acrescento uma terceira na mesma linha. Onde foi mais difícil pactuar? Com os consumidores ou com os empresários?
Yeah, this was three very important questions. Of course, I think Brazil is a very important supplier of raw materials for Germany and for Europe, and we have very, very interesting products, of course, in Brazil. And just pick up the discussions, for example, to show you what we are discussing. I'm for a very, very long time talking about, for example, genetic modification. Soy from South America, soy from Argentina, from Brazil, and this is a very intensive discussion in Germany. Do we want to have genetically modified products? Should they be labeled? How should they be labeled? And we have, of course, very different opinions. So all the agricultural federations and the industry, they are very interested in having also these products on the market. They are very interesting, for example, in the new breeding technologies, in genomic editing products, manufacturers with genome editing, and in a very differentiated legislation in Europe, not just to slow down all the imports in this. But, for example, the retailers, they are more close to the consumers, and they, of course, have an eye on regulation processes, on strict product labeling of genetically modified products. And there it's, of course, very difficult to find compromises. I think, for example, we will have, of course, also in the future, have some kind of regulation, some kind of a look of the authorities and a kind of assessment of also of genome edited food. And we will have a labeling of genome edited food in Europe. I think there will be very intensive discussion that it is not just a process labeling, so manufactured by genome editing. This is not a really an information for the consumer. So when it must be combined with also an information on what has been changed in the product. So the nutrition is, if you have a higher nutrition level on the product, or some sustainability advantages, that should be on the product again. So this gives you an example that there are, of course, also competitive different interests in the food chain, and the competition, of course, gets more and more intensive also in the German market. So it is more and more difficult to find compromises. But I think it's worth to go into this internal discussions and to fill this discussion. And you asked, what's more? I think both discussions with business is really confronting, but I think the more difficult discussion is a discussion with consumers, but especially we have very active NGOs in Germany, the non-governmental organizations like Greenpeace and the environmental organizations. They are very, very active in Germany, and they try to enhance the market and to pick up their arguments and to confront us with their way of thinking. And I think this is a very important to give our opinion, to explain what we are doing. And this is, I think, a very important role also for the German Federation, the German Food Federation.
O senhor não falou sobre onde o senhor teve mais dificuldade de fazer essa pacificação, porque esse sistema é extremamente complexo e a base dele é política e legal. Onde foi mais difícil trazer juntos, os empresários ou os consumidores?
I think the consumers are because they, of course, they want to have more labeling. They want to have also more restrictions in industry. As I said, when we talk about what measures should be implemented, so also the consumer organizations. For example, not the consumers themselves, but the consumer organizations, they are very much on the line. For example, they want to have sugar tax or fat tax in Germany to give more pressure also on the food industry, but also on the consumer to change over to a more healthy nutrition. And we are, as I said, on the opinion we should work with more information and education, but the consumer groups, they are more on the state intervention side and say, well, we want to have prohibitions, we want to have a ban on advertising, we want to have taxes. And therefore, there is a really tough discussion going on, and there we, I think, have to find compromises in the next month.
Eu passo a palavra para o ministro Paulo Haddad. Ministro, o que o senhor achou de toda essa exposição? Seu microfone, ministro, está fechado.
Eu acho que essa experiência alemã deverá ser o benchmarking para todas as federações empresariais no futuro. Algumas poderão assimilar a experiência mais rapidamente, dependendo do contexto político e institucional, e outras poderão ser mais lentas. Eu acho que a CNA ou o SEBRAE deveriam fazer um convênio, se houver condições, para fazer o catch-up da experiência alemã, que é um benchmark, para o caso brasileiro. Basta lembrar que há uma tradição de cooperação entre a Alemanha e o Brasil em vários setores. Quando eu fui secretário de Planejamento aqui em Minas, a GTZ e o KfW ajudaram a organizar associações microrregionais de desenvolvimento, o Plano de Desenvolvimento Sul de Minas, entre outros. E quando o ministro Paulinelli era ministro e secretário da Agricultura, os alemães ajudaram a organizar o Provárzeas, é o programa que transforma as várzeas irrigáveis em áreas extremamente produtivas. Como essa experiência alemã é rica, abrangente, magnificente, eu acho que nós não deveríamos perder a oportunidade de queimar etapas na evolução do nosso sistema, fazendo um convênio de transferência de experiências e assistência técnica da Confederação Alemã com a CNA ou o SEBRAE. Eu acho que o SEBRAE tem melhores condições que a CNA, porque tem mais flexibilidade e mais consciência da importância desse problema.
Eu queria só acrescentar, para efeito de esclarecimento para o doutor Marcos, CNA é a Confederação Nacional da Agricultura, que reúne todos os entes do setor, e o SEBRAE é um órgão de gestão voltado para o pequeno e o médio empreendedor. Pois não, doutor Marcos?
Yes, of course. If we can help you, or we can give you some more information about our experiences, we are, of course, at the moment we are a very, from the personal staff, we are quite a small federation. Although we are the head federation, we have about 15 people working here on the legal and scientific field, and therefore we are concentrating, of course, at the moment on the national floor and on the European floor, which is also very exhausting because we have 27 member states. And of course, on the European level, we have also lots of different discussions. But if we can help you with information, with our experience, as we did it today in this workshop, we are, of course, open for a further discussion also with you or with federations in Brazil, to give you some of our experience, because this is also not as I said, it's not only a German system, it's a system from the basis, which is also spread it all over the European Union. So we have a common expertise, but as it always is, the German authorities are very strict and they have a very close eye on that. But if we can help you with information or in our experience, also other federal, we are open to do so.
Doutor Marcos, eu perguntaria, diante da provocação que é feita pelo nosso presidente, o ministro Alisson Paulinelli, de que é preciso fazer um novo pacto global do alimento, baseado do credenciamento, na capacitação do mundo tropical para oferecer alimentos mais saudáveis, mais sustentáveis, mais resilientes às mudanças climáticas, e, em troca, assegurar a permanência dessas populações no mundo tropical e não se tornarem correntes migratórias. O que o senhor acha dessa visão, onde a Alemanha poderia ser uma grande parceira na construção desse caminhamento político dessa visão?
Yeah, I think this is a very important topic, but I think, as I mentioned, this is not our main field of work. So we are very much concentrated on these really food law aspects, nutrition aspects. We are putting our hand a little bit now on sustainability, but our expertise is not only in parts of this sustainability field. And we have other federations which more working in the international level on these other political fields. So at the moment, with this small staff, I think this is a very important topic, as you mentioned, but it's not our key focus at the moment of our federation, because we are a little bit fixed on these really concrete law questions and political questions. But I think this is a very important topic, and we will probably have other federations in Germany which have more an eye on this international field. But as you said, these are one of the very decisive international questions.
Nós estamos abrindo o microfone para todos que quiserem perguntar. E eu diria, doutor Marcos, que o próximo passo seria encaminhar essa ideia do ministro Paulo Haddad, de, quem sabe, viabilizarmos um convênio, um ambiente de troca de experiências, e talvez nesse mesmo espaço criarmos uma ponte para a discussão de questões estratégicas que a Alemanha e o Brasil possam trabalhar juntos na mesma direção que vocês estão propondo. Alguém mais quer fazer alguma pergunta? Ministro Paulo Haddad? Pode perguntar, ministro.
Como?
Você quer fazer mais alguma pergunta?
Não, eu quero só destacar o seguinte, que a segunda revolução da agropecuária, liderada pelo ministro Parson Paulinelli, ela foi feita nos anos 70, em que a economia brasileira estava extremamente fechada. Era um período que a abertura só viria a acontecer nos anos 90. Agora, não. Nós estamos numa economia brasileira globalizada. E para a agricultura, o agronegócio, todas as atividades econômicas de modo geral, elas têm que se adaptar às regras do jogo. E as regras do jogo envolvem questões ambientais, questões de saúde pública, questões de relações de trabalho na produção, e tudo isso pressupõe que você tenha as instituições brasileiras preparadas para ampliar o grau de globalização da nossa economia, seguindo essas regras que estão lucidamente explícitas no trabalho da Confederação que nos foi apresentado pelo Dr. Marcos.
Muito obrigado, ministro. Se não tiver mais nenhuma pergunta, eu queria encerrar agradecendo imensamente ao Dr. Marcos essa aula espetacular de processo civilizatório, vamos chamar assim. Vocês construíram uma referência global que o mundo deve não só tentar entender, mas seguir como um instrumento de civilidade, de cidadania, do enfrentamento das novas condições de convivência nesse mundo pós-pandemia. Imensamente grato, doutor Ginal, pela aula, pela disponibilidade do seu tempo.
Thank you from my side to be with you. It was very interesting for me, and have a good time and keep safe. Thank you.
You too. Muito obrigado. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Dankeschön.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Gente, olha, é fantástico. Vamos trabalhar nesses pontos e com a ajuda de todos os participantes, mas vocês tiveram a dimensão do trabalho político e estratégico que está por trás de tudo isso e que também é foco do projeto Biomos Tropicais. Muito obrigado a todos. Um abração.